How's it going, everybody? We're on episode 12 of the old PA14 build here. So I'm gonna start working on brackets and the flat parts basically. So let's get into that. So first thing I'm gonna tackle is the landing gear brackets. Well, front one is landing gear, back one is also your lift strut attach point. So as you can see, we got the fuselage upside down here, and I'm laying out the front mount currently. I'm doing the inside pattern that gets bent. So I ran into the first little thing here that I should make note of. So when you're laying this out, the way I done it, I figured out the distance between here, halved it, so this is your center line. Go 719th out, so it's there and there. And they don't even give you a measurement here, but they tells you it's a 1/2 inch radius, so that means this is 1 inch. And surprisingly, very few things on these drawings are to scale, and this fitting is actually one of them. So theoretically, you could cut this out and just lay it on there and trace it, but I'm laying it out. So yeah, I laid out the center lines first. Go 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then you can lay out all your curves up and your curves up. And as you can see by this double set of center punches, when I first done it, I measured this 3/4 measurement from right here. So here to here is not 3/4. You got to measure it on this longer section, which on mine was upside down. So here, I'll do this so you can see it a little better. So yeah, first I measured from here to here, which was 3/4, and then I set my dividers at 1/2 inch to get a 1/2 inch radius on a 1 inch, and as you can see, it was way out here. So first I was thinking, ah crap, I screwed up my center line measurement. And I double checked it. No, it was correct, but I was supposed to measure 3/4 from here to here and then go straight down. So that was easy enough to do. 48/64 on this particular rule. And yeah, you can see where it ends up right there. So with that, now lands right on the edge. And with this stuff, you're gonna get a little crossover here. There's a lot of room for error. But yeah, that's basically it. And same thing inside one. This is hard to do holding the camera. So yeah, that's that bracket. So use your inside holes to drill the holes later on, and just come in with a bandsaw and cut, follow that radius, cut, follow the radius. Yeah, simple as that. So I'll probably cut this one out and either use it to trace the next one, or I might just go ahead and lay it all out. We'll see. So yeah, that's where we're at. We need 2 of these, and despite the plan saying 2 required, is 2 required per side, so you actually need 4. So yeah, there's a lot of weird little screw ups like that in these plans, but it's not hard to figure out. So I'll come back when I get that cut out. Okay, there we go. We got our brackets made up. Same thing. So we got to bend those. And then we got to make 4 of these guys here. But I'm not quite sure what's going on here in the plan, because in this diagram you can see there's a bend in it, but it don't tell you anything about bending it in the plans. Like this is this one here. heat and form tube to accommodate landing gear fitting. So that's this bottom tube right here. Weld washer. It's saying install a tube, add a washer. Nothing here about a bend line. So yeah, I don't know. We'll make up those and bend those guys there and see what needs to be done. We'll figure it out as we go. Okay, first one bent perfect. Second one didn't go so perfect. It's funny, you think the first one would be the learning curve, but this one didn't bend quite right. And then I straightened it out, then I re-bent it, and I'm just not happy with it, so that's where that's going. So I just traced out, or drew out a new one. So I'm going to cut this out and try again. So if something's not going quite right, for small stuff like this, throw it in the garbage, start over. It's not worth cutting corners and settling for less on something as massive of a project as this. So yeah, do it twice and do it right. There we go, new one's made. At least I think that's the new one. One of these is the new one. Yeah, they actually match up now. And it's one bend, not bend, bent back and bent again, and all that crap. So don't be afraid to redo stuff, especially if something small as this. I think to lay it out, cut it out, and re-bend it again was maybe 15-20 minutes. It's not worth cutting corners. And as for how I'm bending them, hammer and vise, simple as that. So line up the line with your jaws. I'm using soft jaws so I don't barrel everything up, but bend one a full 90. Then when you put your second one in, you get, I don't know, like 75 degrees ish, somewhere around there. So I'll bend it till it touches right around there. And then what I've been doing is, say this was the one not quite bent, put it right there, clamp it in, and finish hammering up the rest of the way. Yeah. And it comes out pretty good. So these go right around there like that. And then the side plates we got to make, they're going to come in, tie in. And looking at this now, that fits over that. So I mean, the ones that go on the outside of this are definitely going to have to be angled in a little bit, something like the plans show, but don't really give you any detail on it. So yeah, let's get these cut and go from there. Okay, let's try this again. For some reason my GoPro's shutting off for low battery, it says, even though it got 27%, but anyways, GoPro problems. So I'm going to give you a little tutorial on how I do layout. Whether it's right or wrong, that's up to you. But it works for me. Probably should have done it on this one, but this here got a lot more going on, so it's a better one to cover. So you need a starting point, or a datum, whatever you want to call it. So if there's a flat, I like to start on the flat. So the only flat really on this, and everything's based off of this line right here, basically. So just fluke that this chunk here is like the perfect size to fit this one bracket in, so that's where I'm starting. So start here. This is my starting point, 1 5/16 over, draw a line, and we know this is a 1/2 inch deep. So I set my square 1/2 inch and then mark down and stopped at that corner. And then you come over here, well, you can come over here like this, come down and straight across, and that gives you this area. So we know we got a 1/4 inch radius, so you set your dividers to 1/4 inch. Right now they're on 1/2. So you measure over 1/4 inch, up a 1/4 inch, so that's your pivot point there. So stick your calipers in and you draw this here radius in. So we know now this is our cut line. So that's that taken care of. So next we got to do this bolt hole here. So we need to find this center point. So same thing, come over 3/8 of an inch, and 1/2 inch and 5/8 is 1 1/8. So same thing, set this to 1 1/8, stick it here, draw down, and move over, draw across. So that gives us this location. This one here is the same thing, 1 1/8. So we draw down, and it's 1 3/16. So from here, measure over 1 3/16 and draw straight down. Center point, that's our bolt holes. So that's the critical stuff. The outside here can be off a little bit. It doesn't really matter that much, but right here we know we have a 1/2 inch radius. So, or where is it to? Yeah, 1/2 inch radius. So we know from here to here is also 1/2 inch. So I just went straight down, drew a little line. And same thing right here, we got 3/8 of an inch from the center to the bottom. So measure down 3/8 of an inch, drew a little line. And for this radius, I ran off of this center punch. So I took the 1/2 inch, and if I can get it in there without blocking the view, hold on now. So yeah, I just went up around. As you can see, I went past quite a bit. Oh, and this line here, that's 3/8 of an inch in, so down, and it just ended up being this exact size. It was a fluke. So you got this radius here now. So you just take a rule, straight edge, whatever you want, go from that point to the furthest edge out here, draw a straight line. So now we got all this here covered. So the next spot was this 5/8 radius. So same thing, take your dividers, set it to 5/8. But now you can't run off of this one because that'll put it down here somewhere. So you got to measure up 5/8 of an inch for 5/8 radius on the same center line. So I did put a little center punch in there, and same thing, just pretend that that was that. Drew it, and as you can see, I went way up around. Doesn't matter. You wash this off of that stone after, and same thing as over here. Take a straight edge, measure from that corner to the farthest line out. Bang, done. And same thing over here, connect the dots straight across. So that gives you all your layout now for this. We drill a 1/2 inch hole here, 1/4 inch hole over here, and follow all your outside lines. Don't go in. Whatever's outside, follow it in, and you should be good. So let's go do exactly that. Well, there we have it. A little bit of bandsaw work and some belt sanding. This inside corner here, just get that with a 1/2 inch round file. It's not worth trying to do that with a bandsaw or anything, but yeah, simple as that. Now we just got to drill some holes in it. Okay, we got that one laid out. We just traced the other one. So I, as you can see, actually sit on the bandsaw because it's easier on my back. And it keeps the thing from sliding around, because if you push on this, I'm not going to push on the blade, but it moves pretty easy. Because it's on wheels and it's not that heavy, so I sit on the thing. So you get pretty good in that radius. The whole band off. Holding up at the bottom. There we go. That's how close you can get with a bandsaw. Now we'll go to the belt sander and I'll follow that first, then we'll go to the belt sander. Yeah, it's not much to this. And that's close enough. We'll get down on that little flat with the belt sander. So, the little magnet works pretty good on this. I don't know how much this you're going to be able to see, but it's not rocket science. Make it smooth and follow the line. Back there to adjust the belt tracking, so we can send it over to that side. There we go. Now we'll drill the holes out, and that'll be it for this one. Flipping over just so that those burrs aren't interfering with me. So this one goes to full 1/2 inch. I like using step bits to thin stuff like this. They don't walk around or do anything weird. And I'm hitting my table. Now this one's supposed to be quarter. I'm stopping just before it at, yeah, 7:30 seconds. So once this is all together, then I'll drill it and ream it 1/4 inch rather than going ahead and drilling it to 1/4 now, and then if it's off a line, you get nothing to work with. Pretty sure that one was it. Yep. Could use a little more. And just using the next step to countersink or deburr that hole. So yeah, there we go. That's the second one made. They're even. Mirrored on the leave die. So I'm gonna go ahead and make 2 of those up off camera, or 2 more of those, and we can start fitting these to the fuselage hopefully. Alright, so I've done a bit of research, and seems like everyone, you know, the way to go about it, you weld this on first, and then once that's welded on, then you attach these side plates, and these do get bent to take up that bit of slack. So those gotta get welded on, but I can't weld these on without the back ones also, because it all gotta be lined up, done at the same time. If this one's off like that, there's no way in the world of lining that one up, because it'll end up out here. So I'm at a standstill now for the front gear fittings. I can't continue with that, and I can't do the rear gear fitting because that's this plate. Those holes get bent up, and that's where another tube gets welded through, but that goes on top of these guys. So I got to make up the lift strut fittings. These can get bent, welded on, done, finished, and then this third layer gets laid on top of these and tacked in along with the front gear fittings all at the same time to make sure everything's in the right place. And I also discovered, I was thinking 1/4 inch is pretty small. I don't remember putting a 1/4 inch bolt in my PA-12 when I switched it from floats to skis. Just because I don't. 1500 gross weight and down Super Cubs used 1/4 inch gear bolts, like a J3, a PA-11 would all probably have 1/4 inch bolts. But PA-18 and anything a little higher than 1500 pound gross weight uses a 5/16 bolt. So they got to be drilled out. Well, they need to be drilled out anyways, but that's going to 5/16. And I'm probably going to use the Cabane V off my PA-12 because it's made, is there, so it's just what to use what I got. And I'm gonna hopefully use the Atlee Dodge gear legs I have to jig this up as well. I do have the stock PA-18 gear legs upstairs, but I would rather jig off of what I plan on actually using and that I know the history of. It hasn't been bent, repaired, etc., etc. But all that gear is currently on the PA-12 because we still have a bit of snow, but it's rapidly melting, so I think she's going to be going back on floats sooner than later. So next step, lift strut brackets. We'll tackle them, put them on, and we'll get back to the gear legs, or the gear fittings, which is probably the order I should have done it, but I needed these parts anyway. Now I got them, so they'll be there in the bench for when I need them. So let's get 4 of these cut out and we'll go from there. Okay, I got one of the lower strut fittings welded on, and this is the second time welded on, because if you take your first bracket and you just set it here so it fits nice, and you set your angle, it's not right. This plane here is supposed to run with this tube, so that way when you put your landing gear fitting on here, it's in line with that tube, because your front landing gear fitting goes up there. So that's wrong. Cocked up like that is right, and then he ends up with this gap back here to contend with, which is another case of heat, hammer, and weld gets the job done. So I welded it on like that basically the first time, and then when I laid the gear fitting on here, if I can do this one hand, doing shit with the camera makes things a little difficult. Yeah, instead of this pointing down here where it's supposed to, the end of this was like up here. So no bueno, that don't work. But it wasn't too terrible. First I cut all this side free and cut all the way across here and left this, and it did tilt it up, but this side was still not quite right, and it just wasn't going the way I wanted to. So I got a 90% cut off, or not 90, but like 75% cut off. So just well to cut it completely off, clean everything up, start over. So that's what I've done. So now, I don't know if you can tell on the camera or not, but that runs with that tube. So make sure you do that. And this versus that is 22 degrees. That's in the plans. That's not hard. I just leveled the fuselage with some shims, got this to 0 degrees, and that's at 22. I'm not going to wait for the needle to settle down. It's not rocket science. Get a 0 and get 22. So yeah, that's that one on. And I think I'm going to go ahead and tackle the other side before I get into the gear fitting here. And it still needs to be heat down and bent a little bit more and stuff, but all in all, it's fitting pretty good. It still needs a little adjustment. I don't know if you can tell, but that tube's off by like 1 degree maybe, or this is round stock actually. And I chucked just a little end here in the lathe and spun it. Well, I didn't spin it with power, but I turned it by hand and bent it so it's straight with the tailstock. So this is a fairly straight piece of stock. It's good enough to get this lined up. And the spacing, I'm not sure what's going on here. The spacing that they tells you to put it in the plans, it kind of makes sense. I'm not going to go in the book now, but anyways, they're saying center to center is 21.5, and it's 1.25" gear leg, so that all matches up. And when I went to look at the landing gear section, sure enough, center to center, 21.5. But for some reason, this is a stock PA18 gear leg. It's 21.25 center to center. So I drove all the way down to my cabin, measured the PA18, which has fairly new Atlee Dodge 3-inch extended gear. Measures that one from outside to inside, which is center to center, 21.25. Now there was some stuff in the way that wasn't the best measurement, but I can measure that one really good, and it's 21.25. So then I goes down on the computer, opens up the Northland drawings for a PA18, looks at the diagram, center to center and landing gear, 21.5. So all my paperwork is saying 21.5, but real life is telling me 21.25. So I'm gonna wait until the gear legs are off the PA12, and I'm gonna use them to jig this up, because Like I said, it's fairly new Atlee Dodge gear. I can't see them screwing it up there, making it in a jig. And it bolted right onto my PA12, which PA12 and 18 has the same gear leg bolting. It's just PA12 doesn't have the cabane V originally, but most of them got it added in by now. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay, we're back a few days later, and as you can see, some stuff happened. So earlier this weekend, I went down, took the PA12 back off floats, or took off skis back on floats. I don't know if it's going to make it into the video or not. I probably will, but the factory PA18 gear that I had over there, I was saying, was too close together and I didn't know what was going on with the measurement. Well, I figured it out. From what I can gather, at some point in time, either some damage happened, or when they switched the PA12 to PA18 style gear, something got changed, which it shouldn't, because PA12 basically comes like it is here now. It's just a spot to bolt the gear leg in, and then the bungee truss is this elaborate thing that goes inside, and we're not going to get into that, but basically all you do is take some brackets like this. Well, the bolts there. I can do this side. So yeah, these goes on. If I can get it over the burr. Anyways, they go there and they tie into this tube, and then you got that bolt hole for your cabane V. So literally all you're doing is adding this to a PA12 to make it work with PA18 style gear. But either way, my gear on my PA12 is a 1/4 inch closer together than a PA18. Why? I have no idea. Like I said, they shouldn't have touched any of that to convert it over. So I'm guessing it got damaged somewhere. And I got curious and I cut open this gear leg. And there is a pretty big piece of channel fabricated and welded in there. So I'm guessing the gear leg or the gear fittings got moved. And whenever they done this to have somewhere to attach some fabric, that got welded on probably when the legs were on the fuselage, if I had to guess. So it got set to my fuselage width. So I never noticed this until I started investigating the whole problem with this, but because one, I was like, how in the world did the previous owner, my buddy, get the 18 gear on there if it's not the right width? That's how. Notice how much wider this is over here. He trimmed off 1/8 of an inch on each 4 outside corner, so it fits my fuselage of my PA12. So I had to take special care to make sure that as I was jigging this one up, that it touches inside, 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 inside. So for now, these legs will always work. My floats will still work. But for some reason, I did buy more factory gear. I can't really see that happening. If anything, I'm going to be building it from scratch. If I do longer gear for only skis, because I do have a plan for that. We're not going to talk about that. That's way down the road. But yeah, that's what happened with my gear measurement. My PA12 was wrong, and these gear legs were modified to fit. So that's that. But yeah, as you can see, they're basically on here. I went ahead and welded in the bushings and the washers on the inside. That's same as the plans. The only thing the plan tells you to put the tube in the full length, weld it up, and then cut it out. I didn't do that. I cut little knobs on the lathe, and I used, everything's a mess here now because I've been working. But, oh, there it is. Yeah. So that's cut. Just a random piece of aluminum. It's cut to 1.25 inches, same as a normal gear leg. Mine aren't anymore, but that goes in there. that keeps everything straight, and I just tacked everything, welded it all outside as much as I could. Got to the inside of the washer most of the way around, and took this out and finished welded it, and that's it. And I did weld right inside where the tube welds to the interior of the washer. So I did have to run a reamer through it again. Those tubes you got to run a reamer through anyways to get a 3/8 bolt into them. So right where the weld was too, I just had to touch that up. But yeah, I welded these up. I probably shouldn't have welded this outside here, but I had no good way of keeping that tube in there in the meantime, because like I said, these were supposed to go in flush. So I think I'm just going to re-drill these bigger to fit over the weld. It's not the end of the world. It's basically the same as what you do if you were converting in PA 12 or 14 over to 18 stall gear. So yeah, I finished those up. Yeah, the back is easy. If everything was good when you welded on your strut fittings, the bottom half here, if that was all done good, and that should pretty well be where it needs to be. And the only thing really I line up is these front ones. So what I opted to do, I took a piece of 1-inch aluminum tubing, and I had to machine the ends down a little bit because these Athlete Divers gear, the inside diameter is a little smaller. I believe it's 940 thou, if I remember correctly. The stock gear, like a 1-inch tube slides right in it. So if you're using stock gear, you're set. But if you're using Athlete or someone else's, and you got to machine down the tube. So I machined that for a snug fit, so you can, oh yeah, you used to be able to turn it, but I had a ratchet strap going from outside to outside to kind of alleviate some of the downward force. Like right now I'd say there's a crown in the tube. Yeah, there is. I can see it. I don't know if it shows up on camera, but that don't matter. There can be as much crown up and down as you want. That's just the gear legs moving in the axis that they would move anyways. The only thing you're worried about is basically the in and out position of these here gear legs, or these here front fittings. Because your height you just measure from the bolt to the tube, bolt to the tube. And as long as when you look straight down that's straight, you're good. So just wiggle it around. I used a square, wherever that's gone. Anyways, I used a square to go from the outside of the tubing to that bolt, just to get a reference as well for a second opinion. And then I tacked it all in. So everything is tacked quite well now. So now I can take the gear off, burn everything in, and then work on these Cabane V brackets here. So yeah, that's next. Well, I couldn't help myself. It was too close to sitting on its own gear for the first time, and I wanted to have a look. The Cabane V off the PA12 does not fit. It's a mile off. It's like an inch. But I was planning on making a new Cabane anyway. This one here is kind of funny. Come on, Woody, would you? Come on, get away. Yeah, no, that one's centered. That's the side that's funny. It sticks out a mile over here, and it's like flush over here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna make a new one, I think. It's easier than modifying that one. But yeah, I had to put it on there. So next thing to do is, well, flip it back over and fit up these tabs here. And they're not hard to do. Like I said, I'm gonna enlarge them holes, and this crease here, you just bend that in till it touches that tube and weld it in. It's super simple to do. I'm not going to cover that on this video. This video is quite long enough, I have a feeling. I haven't started editing it yet, but I have watched the videos that's progressed up until today. So yeah, that'll be it for this one. But man, it's nice seeing this thing sitting on some sort of landing gear. It's half decently tall too, considering it's on these little tiny tires. Strange seeing a Cub nowadays not a set of bush wheels. And I don't even have a tail wheel. All I got is a tail ski. But I was gonna buy a cheap little hardware store wheel to shove in there. It's only a 1/2-inch bolt or axle, whatever you want to call it. So at least I'll have a wheel to be able to roll this thing around. I don't plan on ever flying this on wheels, really. So no point for me to go buy an actual aviation tail wheel. I'm just going to buy something that fits in there easily and rolls around. Because if this thing is on landing gear, it's going to be on that and those. So yeah. She's on skis, or on skis, on wheels. So I'm going to wrap this video up here now. It's been quite long enough. But it's nice to be back at this, and seeing stuff like this is really motivational to keep going. So if you're at a bit of a stalemate with your project, press on and try to knock out something that looks good like this, even though this is still not done. The landing gear's not even welded in yet. But at least seeing this is really good motivation. So if you're at that point, try to get something done. Whether you're building an airplane or car, truck, whatever, doesn't matter. Get at it, get it done. And as always, have a good one, everybody.